Hello and welcome to Techiechap. Well, it's finally here. On my 40th episode, no less. Elementary 7. Elementary, the thing that started my channel in the first place. The upgrade is finally here. Elementary 7 has been released and I have been working with Elementary 7 for the last week. If you'd like to find out my thoughts on this epic release, join me after the intro. So this is the Elementary desktop. Now I've been using this desktop for a good week or so and it's been interesting, I have to say. I had some quite strong reactions when I first started using it, and however, as I've carried on using it, those views and initial reactions have changed somewhat, has to be said. And we'll get into that in a moment. But first things first, when you log into Elementary, you are presented with a very nice background. In fact, this is the default background and a view similar to pretty much all the Elementary releases since version 4 or 5, I think. You have your dock down here and you have your top bar here. It looks very similar to a Mac-esque type environment. In fact, if I open up files and I go to video, I actually took a video of starting up Elementary. And let's just expand that so you can see it. And the reason why I wanted to do that was really to convey something of the day-to-day experience of using Elementary. Now, as you can see, there's a really rather nice high definition logo that happens at startup. You're then presented with a really nice polished login screen, and then you get to the desktop. And this all happens very seamlessly. You're not getting reams of code and text coming up when you first start Elementary, like you do so often with different types of operating system like BSD or Linux. Of course, you can hide a lot of that code and text that comes up, all those services that start, but it's actually nice to see a Linux system that hides all that from you and starts so quickly. Whilst we're here, actually, I'm actually in the files application, and it's quite a nice application. However, there are no options within the files application, and that can be something of a shock, particularly when you're a Linux user like me, and particularly from the last review I did of Mabox, which had options galore. Elementary really is the polar opposite of Mabox. Mabox has options galore. You can change anything and everything you want. There are options everywhere, preferences everywhere. You can really go to town on it. Elementary, they have stripped it back so much that they've taken a lot of the options away. And that was quite a jolt. And I think that's what prompted the strong reaction I had towards Elementary when I first started using it, having come from Mabox, which is like a whole different world compared to this. Completely different. But that goes to show the diversity of the Linux and open source world. And this is what you get with open source. You can have something that is completely customizable to exactly the way you want it to be, or you can have something that is completely locked down and will function in a way that is the way it functions, and you can't change that. Or you can change that, but you have to look into it, and I'll get into that in a moment. So the files menu is what it is. There are no options. It can be a little bit limited. You do have tabs, however, within the files menu, but you don't have options like split view, for example, and you can't turn off and on things like thumbnail view, etc. All of the thumbnail view is turned on and that's it. You can't really change that. However, you do get like a history of actions you've done within the file browser, and you get some nice icons here showing your bookmarks or your locations there. Indeed, if you can minimize those bookmarks as well if you wanted to. So that's the files application. One of the things I had issue with, and we'll just go into that. Obviously, I have been using this a few days now, so I've installed my own applications on here, and this was a neat little tool I found within the App Center. And this is just a little mini system monitor in the form of a kind of rev counter. Now we're just going to open up Web, which is the default browser of Elementary, and it looks fantastic. And as you can see here, you do get some options in Web, but again, it has been sort of locked down quite a bit. If you go further than that into preferences, then you can do a little bit more within the preferences, but it's pretty locked down. So just keep an eye on the system monitor there. So I'm just scrolling through the videos on my channel, and the CPU is at 99%. All right. And things, when you're doing that and you have multiple tabs open as you can within Web, then the system really starts to slow down. All right, so now I'm going to open up Firefox. And within Firefox, I'm going to go to the same page. And we are just going to search for my channel. There we go. And if we just click on videos, and we're going to do exactly the same thing as we did in Web. And I'm just scrolling through now the videos on this website. As you can see, I did hit 95%, but it was quite brief, and I'm just scrolling up again. So actually, it's a lot less CPU intensive than Web. And actually, Firefox is able to manage tabs a lot better than Web, but you have to go ahead and install that first. So let's talk about the App Center whilst we're talking about installing applications. Now, one of the more contentious issues with Elementary's design decisions is that they do not enable FlatHub by default. Now, given that Elementary is a system that is aimed at tempting Windows and Mac OS users away, it's a puzzling thing that the App Center doesn't have Flatpaks or a repository with access to lots of applications enabled by default. In fact, within here, you really have no options to control repositories or where they come from. It is locked away. So if I open up the file manager here and go to screenshots. All right, we'll just take a look at this screenshot. So this screenshot was taken when I had installed Elementary and was just looking for applications to set up and use. And this was the multimedia applications available to me. It's a little bit shocking, just 6. In fact, not even 6, 4 applications available under multimedia. Now, if you are a complete newbie and you encountered that on a system, I think you'd be pretty disheartened, as was I. However, the solution was quite simple. You, of course, need to know an application that you want, the name of an application. In my case, it was Kdenlive. So you put in Kdenlive. If you know the name of the Linux application you want, then that's useful. And if you're a new user, you may have already gone through a list online of applications you want to download to get your journey started. One What happens if it's not available in Elementary's App Center by default is there's a useful little bit of text that pops up and says, well, this application isn't available within the Elementary App Center. However, you may be able to find it in FlatHub, and there is a link to FlatHub. So if I just do a search for FlatHub, you're taken to this page directly from the App Center. It takes you directly there and you are able to install. Once you've installed that application from FlatHub, all FlatHub apps are enabled within the App Center. It's not immediately clear that happens because nothing pops up to say you have access to all of FlatHub, but all of a sudden the App Center begins to make a lot more sense. And now when I click on media production, instead of 4 applications being available, I have tons of applications available. So I kind of understand the initial decision of wanting to push Elementary apps that are specifically written for Elementary, and in particular help the users that develop apps for Elementary. However, there just isn't enough applications that have been written with Elementary in mind and are available for Elementary to justify not having FlatHub enabled by default. But full props to the Elementary team for removing the big warning sign that used to be there when using Elementary 6.1. Now it just says non-curated, not reviewed by Elementary for security, privacy or system integration. But the fact is, you can pretty much get what you need from FlatHub, and that includes Office applications, etc. Indeed, LibreOffice is available within FlatHub. If I do a search for LibreOffice, because one of the things lots of people have pointed out is there is no Office suite that comes by default in Elementary. Well, you can install the one that you want, and indeed LibreOffice, which is probably the most popular one, is available within the App Center if you need it, and yeah, you can get it once FlatHub is enabled in the App Center. As I've said, App Center begins to make a lot more sense with FlatHub enabled, and I was able to get everything that I needed from there. If we go into system settings now, system settings really hasn't changed a lot since 6.1. Online accounts, I got quite hopeful with online accounts. I was hoping to integrate my Google account with this. I could, but I'd have to go through several hops to do that rather than just clicking on a nice Google icon like so many of the other Linux distros out there that have Google and Office integration and so on already there for you to attach your cloud account to your operating system. Here it's just CalDAV and IMAP, and that is it. That's all you get. Now you can tie in your accounts using those, but it's a little bit fiddly, but perfectly possible. Not as easy as simply signing in with Google and having it automatically tie in your calendar and everything else. So I understand it though from a privacy point of view, and also from a technical debt point of view as well from the Elementary team. What the Elementary team, who are quite a small team, there is only Danielle Foray. She is the founder and CEO of Elementary, and looking at the GitHub page, about 18 other contributors or developers contributing to the project. So it is a very small team. So really full props to the Elementary team for getting this release out, particularly after the year that they had recently, or the last year that they've had. It's been a bit of a tough time for the team. There's been question marks about the future of Elementary. I won't say anything more about it other than to say well done. Well done for getting this release out, and I'm looking forward now to future releases of Elementary, particularly the point releases for 7, because I understand from Danielle's blog that she will be releasing point releases with more and more features that get added into 7. So look out for those point releases from the Elementary team. Other things you can do, there are screen time and limits. If you wanted to limit screen time, that's great, particularly if you have a family and you've got kids around and you want to limit their screen time. Brilliant, it's all in there. Date and time, displays, you can change the default applications. Now, for example, if you didn't want your default web browser to be web, you can make it Firefox. If you didn't want file browser files to be your default file browser, well, looky here, you go into App Center. Now that I have FlatHub enabled, I could download the Dolphin file manager, which of course brings me a lot of the features that I'm looking for, like split view, etc. Could download Dolphin file manager and make that my default file manager if I wanted to. However, if I do that, then the issue is that I then am stepping outside of the Elementary ecosystem, or the what Elementary really is all about, which is offering everything you need but in a stripped back fashion so that you can get more done. That's kind of the philosophy of Elementary in a nutshell. Their premise is that most users don't want to spend ages fiddling around with control panels and system settings and so on to get things done. And I kind of get that. Obviously, because I'm from a Linux background, and since over 40 reviews, I've been exploring Linux distros and what they can do, and BSD. I now have a much better appreciation for what's out there, and actually I prefer having lots of options so I can tailor my experience. But I do get that Elementary have made a design decision, a tough one, to strip things back so that actually you've got a system here that you can get things done with, and it's a perfectly good system. It offers a polished, refined system, a polished and refined way of doing things, and the Elementary apps that they have included work perfectly well. They get the job done. For example, the task manager here, very basic, very simple, but in terms of a consistent look and theme, it's all there. It looks consistent with the other Elementary apps. Calendar, there we go. So calendar is quite a nice, fully featured calendar. You can import calendars as well, iCalendar files if you wanted to. There's a consistent look and theme that runs across Elementary, and once you start downloading other applications to get your things working, or get the work that you want to get working done, then it can be a little bit of a jolt, because all of a sudden you're not in the same design language as what the Elementary team are intending, and that's sometimes one of the issues with Linux distros in general, is that there isn't a consistent design language across the system, because it's pulling things from all over the place, and different file managers from different developers have different design thoughts than, say, like the operating system itself. And of course you can theme that and change that if you wanted to, but it does take a lot of work to get to that stage, more often than not. The music app is perhaps the thing that disappointed me most with the Elementary release, and that is because they have stripped it back so much that there is no options at all within the music app. You can't manage playlists. it does lead me to question, why have it at all if it's been stripped back so much. However, I did put some music on here. So for example, if I double click on this, a bit of Gomez, a bit of Chris Isaacs, and a bit of Charlie Parker, as you can see, it builds a list of a kind of playlist, a very basic playlist from your file on your file manager. Why you can't just right click on a folder and click play, for example, or have that built into the file manager, I think that could be a development point to maybe take forward, because actually I don't think you need this app. If you stripped it back so much, why have it at all? Why have it at all? Just have it built into the file manager, a bit like what Dolphin does, where you can play some music and it pops up in the top right hand corner that you're playing that music, and it goes to the next track automatically in that folder. You could build it directly into the file browser rather than having an app. With FlatHub restored to the App Center, you could just go ahead and download another music player. For example, I could download Rhythmbox music player, which is one of the more popular music players, and if I click on that, then there's Rhythmbox, and I can listen to some radio as well if I wanted to. There's lots of choice out there. The Elementary team have often been accused of offering a system to the Linux world that is form over functionality. Well, I can say this about Elementary 7. It is very fine form. This system works as a cohesive whole. It is a system that is very easy to use. It really works, particularly for those who just want to get on with it, who don't want to delve into menus, who are trusting the developers that the system they're using will just work. Now, that's not going to be for every user. It's not going to be suitable. So for the Linux users who are tinkerers, who really want to customize their system, Elementary just isn't for you. However, if you're an average Linux user who just wants to get on and do stuff, or even a new person coming into the Linux world just discovering what it's like, then Elementary is a fantastic introduction to the Linux world. Yes, there are questionable decisions. So the fact that FlatHub hasn't been included in the App Center, that's one of them. However, the craftsmanship on this system as you use it day in and day out is fantastic. And you don't see that a lot in Linux systems. Gotta say, as a rating, I'll be giving Elementary 7 4 out of 5, which incidentally is the same rating that I gave Madbox, but for pretty much completely different reasons. They're poles apart systems, but Elementary as a cohesive whole Linux distribution that offers polish from the moment you press the power button on your machine all the way through, an experience that just works. It's a very fine effort indeed. So well done to the Elementary team. I'm very much looking forward to the point releases that Danielle talked about in her blog that will begin to offer more features as time goes on. If you have enjoyed this review and you would like to see more, then please click on like and subscribe down below. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for watching Techiechap.